The Antonine Plague was one of the most devastating pandemics of the ancient world, striking the Roman Empire at the height of its power. Lasting from approximately 165 to 180 CE, and possibly resurfacing in later waves, the epidemic caused widespread death, economic disruption, and military crisis. Named after the ruling dynasty of the time, the plague unfolded during the reign of Emperor Marcus Aurelius and his co-emperor Lucius Verus. It marked a turning point in Roman history, weakening the empire's stability and contributing to long-term decline. Origins and spread. The outbreak likely began in the eastern provinces of the Roman Empire. In 165 CE, Roman troops returning from campaigns against the Parthian Empire in Mesopotamia carried a mysterious disease back with them. According to ancient sources, the plague first appeared in the city of Seleucia and then spread rapidly along trade routes and military roads. As soldiers traveled westward, the disease followed. Within a short time, it had reached major urban centers such as Rome, Antioch, and Alexandria. The Roman Empire's extensive network of roads and bustling Mediterranean trade routes, which had once been symbols of unity and strength, now facilitated the rapid transmission of infection. Urban density made matters worse. Cities were crowded, sanitation was limited, and populations had no immunity to the new disease. As a result, mortality rates soared. Symptoms and cause. Much of what we know about the Antonine Plague comes from the Greek physician Galen, who witnessed the epidemic firsthand. Galen described symptoms including fever, diarrhea, vomiting, inflamed throat, skin eruptions, and scabbing. Some victims developed dark pustules across the body. Based on these descriptions, modern historians and medical researchers believe the Antonine Plague was most likely smallpox, though some have suggested measles as an alternative. Smallpox fits many of the recorded symptoms, particularly the characteristic rash and scarring. If it was indeed smallpox, the disease would have been highly contagious and deadly in a population with no prior exposure. Estimates suggest that the plague may have killed between 5 and 10 million people, possibly up to 10% of the Roman Empire's population at the time. Impact on the Roman military. The epidemic struck at a critical moment. Rome was engaged in major conflicts along its northern and eastern frontiers. As soldiers fell ill in large numbers, entire legions were weakened. Recruitment became increasingly difficult as the disease spread into rural areas, reducing the available pool of healthy young men. Emperor Lucius Verus himself died in 169 CE, possibly from the plague, leaving Marcus Aurelius to rule alone. The emperor spent much of his reign leading military campaigns along the Danube frontier, attempting to repel Germanic tribes that threatened Roman territory. The loss of manpower strained Rome's defensive capacity and forced changes in military policy, including the recruitment of slaves and gladiators into the army. Economic and social consequences. Beyond the battlefield, the plague disrupted daily life across the empire. Farms were abandoned as laborers died, leading to food shortages. Trade declined as merchants avoided infected regions. Tax revenues dropped, placing pressure on the imperial treasury. In cities, fear and uncertainty spread alongside the disease. Ancient accounts describe mass burials and a breakdown in public order. Temples and religious rituals became central to public life as citizens sought divine protection. Many Romans interpreted the plague as a punishment from the gods, reflecting the deep spiritual anxiety of the time. The economic shock had lasting consequences. Some historians argue that the Antonine Plague marked the beginning of a long period of instability known as the crisis of the 3rd century, during which the empire faced political turmoil, economic collapse, and repeated invasions. While the plague alone did not cause Rome's eventual decline, it significantly weakened the structures that had sustained imperial power. A turning point in Roman history. The Antonine Plague represents more than a tragic health disaster, it symbolizes a shift in the trajectory of the Roman Empire. Before the epidemic, Rome stood at the height of its territorial expansion and relative stability under the so-called 5 good emperors. Afterward, the empire struggled with recurring crises. Marcus Aurelius, often remembered as a philosopher-emperor and author of the Stoic work Meditations, governed during this period of profound hardship. His writings reflect a world marked by suffering and uncertainty, conditions shaped in part by the plague that ravaged his empire. Though the epidemic eventually subsided, its demographic damage lingered. Population losses affected military strength, agricultural productivity, and urban vitality for decades. Historical significance. The Antonine Plague stands as one of the earliest well-documented pandemics in European history. It demonstrates how interconnected trade networks and military campaigns, hallmarks of imperial success, can also accelerate the spread of disease. In many ways, the Roman experience foreshadowed later pandemics, including the plague of Justinian and the Black Death. Today, scholars continue to examine archaeological evidence, climate data, and ancient texts to better understand the epidemic's true scale and nature. While uncertainties remain, there is little doubt that the Antonine Plague reshaped the Roman world. In the end, the epidemic revealed a fundamental vulnerability at the heart of even the most powerful empires: disease respects no borders, armies, or wealth. At the height of Roman dominance, an invisible pathogen exposed the limits of imperial strength and altered the course of history.